We can oxide. We've mentioned nitric oxide before, right? Where did we mention it? I think it was in the neurotransmitter like gases category. So we've seen this before. We're going to see this again in the next section when we talk about blood vessels. So we'll know that. We're going to save the details for blood vessels. We'll probably, it's like end of next week, something like that. All right, and then just stretching. So if we stretch an organ that has smooth muscle in it, think of your stomach, right? And you eat a meal that's way too big, right? First of all, food baby. Huh? Food baby. Food baby. That's right. Food baby. All right. Mechanically gated stretch, right? Mechanically gated ion channels, right? Will open up, create a graded potential, and we could trigger the smooth muscle to contract. And that's like the, right? All right. Let's go back to that topic. It was, I don't know, I think it was like the second one or something in that table, which was electrical activity. We're talking about spontaneous electrical activity in a smooth muscle cell. So it's not an autonomic neuron synapsing on a smooth muscle cell, right? It's not a hormone telling a smooth muscle cell do something, contract, right? And it's not stretching and saying, oh man, stomach cramp, contract, right? We've got in smooth muscle cell this capability to actually generate on its own synaptic potentials, right? Just boom, like I don't know. Oh my goodness, let's see what's happening here. First of all, let's start out at minus 60 as our resting membrane potential for smooth muscle cells, right? Let's review, just to do it, because the exam is on Tuesday. What was our resting membrane potential for skeletal muscle cells?
35.
To 60.
Oh, we have so many choices now, right? Ooh, okay, so the choices I've heard so far were negative 35, negative 40, and negative 90. And we have negative 70. All right. Oh, man. 4 choices. Why don't I throw out negative 55 in there just to be complete, right? Oh, man. Let's organize, right? Organize. I'm all about organizing, right? You guys know this by now, right? You guys are lucky you're not my children. They know, too. I'm all about organizing. So, let's see. Let's start from the beginning. Minus 70. Which one was that?
Most neuron.
In what cell type? Neuron. Most neurons that we kind of discussed, right? Minus 70, resting membrane potential. Minus 55, threshold for those same neurons, right? Minus 35, I. Minus 90. That's the skeletal one, right? I think those are all the ones.
No, there's the hair.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh yeah. That's right, I forgot, yeah. You're right, okay, good. All right, so we have those. Okay, super awesome. I think that's all we had. All right, like I said, organize. That also would be beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing final exam question. I still have to write these. 2 beautiful topics for today. Oh, yeah.
What did negative 35 was again?
Wait, what was negative 35?
The vision.
Vision, right? Rosacone. Super good. Got to write that down. Okay, so smooth. Smooth, right? Okay, so we're just going to add our organized, right? Minus 60. All right. I guess it's a little bit above minus 60, but that's good. Okay, so in certain muscle cells that are going to function as pacemakers, and we've heard of pacemakers before in heart. We just haven't gotten to physiology part, right? But from anatomy, we're talking about pacemaker, right, in the heart. Okay, so in smooth muscle, we will designate certain cells right in there to be the pacemakers in, like, let's say, a sheet of smooth muscle tissue. All right, so we're going to start out at resting membrane potential, and because of just this condition in these specific cells that are built this way, their ion channels are just going to kind of always be, some of them open, to allow for kind of a constant trickle, right? Constant trickle of ions coming in, right? So you see how, right, this random moment, boom, threshold, right? It's about 40-ish, right? Threshold, and then we generate a little action potential. And then, oh, we're done. And then, because of the nature of these ion channels that are built into the membrane of these pacemaker cells, we hit threshold, action potential, right? And we just kind of, we keep going like that. All right, this is one type of pacemaker cell. We have another type of pacemaker cell where it's similar in the sense that we have this constant leakage, right? Constant trickle of ions. And so we have this. But instead of coming all the way up to threshold because we're just constantly like creeping towards it, we kind of cycle, right? We cycle, we let some in, and then we close the channel. We let some in, and we close, right? Kind of like this. So it creates these waves. We call them slow waves, right? And then something outside happens that really opens up all the channels, brings us above threshold, and then we get a whole bunch of action potentials. And then we could come down and, oh, something happens, right? Something like that. This maybe could be that, like, the food baby, right? And like, oh man, from the outside, that was just too much food. It's something like that. All right, so definitely we're gonna, right? We're gonna stick that in the smooth muscle box. Pacemaker cells. Let's see. This is just review of anatomy, right? Maybe with a few more details. Here we've got some sort of autonomic, ding, 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 autonomic nerve synapsing on our sheet of smooth muscle cells. Just a close-up of that. And we'll have vesicles, right? Synaptic vesicles ready to release their neurotransmitter. Review. Incredibly important review. Right? Smooth. Or cardiac. I mean, that's our next topic. Smooth. Autonomic. Completely separate. Right? Be sure. If this is not plastered in your head already, it has got to be plastered, right? At this point. For sure. You know, go for it. Oh, brother. In some way. This means, for smooth muscle, what are our neurotransmitter choices? Now we have more than one choice, right? Skeletal muscle, we just had our one choice, right? Acetylcholine. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Choices, right? Which also means receptors, right? Oh my goodness, stick that in your head. And under the topic of adrenergic receptors, it begins. Oh, it begins today. All right, so let's see. We're going to go slowly through the chart. This will take us the rest of the course. Don't worry. It's going to take us the rest of the course to go through the chart. However, we're here. There's no turning back now. You either drop the course now, or you're going to the end, right? Go to the end. Go to the end. Do it. All right. So, oh my goodness, we have so many organs, and the thing that these organs have in common in this table is smooth muscle. That's it, right? We will confirm it as we go through all the different systems, but what these have in common are smooth muscle and, of course, therefore, autonomic nervous system control, right? Control over that smooth muscle. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. Under parasympathetic, muscarinic, right? Accepting acetylcholine, right? Okay. Under sympathetic, it's going to be alpha or beta receptors. Darn. That's the hard part. Okay. For Tuesday, do not worry about all of these. Like I said, this is going to take us the rest of the course to get through all of these. However, we have talked about the eye, right? We finished that in the previous chapter. All sorts of stuff about the eye. And we had smooth muscle in the eye, right? Where did we have smooth muscle? In the iris and in the ciliary muscle, right? Those, well, keep saying it over and over again, those were smooth muscle, right? Therefore, they were under autonomic control. We know, we did it already, right? We did all that stuff already. Now we're just going to add a little bit of additional information onto what we already know, right? Cranial nerve number, blah, 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 right? And how it contracts, the lens and all this stuff, and the pupil and all this stuff, right? We're just going to add to that information that we already know, receptors and neurotransmitters, right? Take a look. This is all I want you to know for Tuesday, as far as this table is concerned. Let's see. For each item, for each muscle, let's see. Let's do parasympathetic first. Because everything under parasympathetic is always going to be muscarinic, accepting acetylcholine, like, okay, you're just going to always say that, right? And we already know what happens at each of these locations under parasympathetic stimulation. So actually this we already know. Let's move on to this, because this is maybe the new stuff. We already know the actions under sympathetic stimulation. We're just adding alpha receptors and beta receptors at these two different locations. Good? So that's the additional information for Tuesday. Good? From this table. Alpha, beta. Don't worry about alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2. Just alpha or beta. Good enough. Good? All right. Rest of the course. Just that. Cool. For Tuesday. Let's see. Super quick. Anatomy review of cardiac muscle. And physiology. All right. So put this chart, or this picture, which shows us our mechanism for excitation, contraction, coupling in cardiac muscle. Put this picture in the cardiac muscle box, right? So we've got excitation, contraction, coupling, skeletal muscle box, smooth muscle box, cardiac muscle box, right? Each one has some things in common, mainly that calcium stuff, right? But with significant differences, right, in the little details. All right. Here, let's see. What are they showing us? Here they're kind of focusing on how do we get that calcium in the cytoplasm, right? Because that's going to be our main difference. Once we get to the cross bridges, that stuff, that's going to all be the same as skeletal muscle. We're going to come back to having troponin, right? That's all the same. So the big difference for cardiac is how do we get this calcium in the cytosol to increase, right? Let's see. Well, okay, let's see what's the same. This is the same, right? For pumping calcium out back into sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, that's the same. Here we've got a calcium ion channel to release from sarcoplasmic reticulum. That's pretty much the same as well. Okay, so far so good. Here's a significant difference. We've got a calcium ion channel embedded in the plasma membrane of the cardiac muscle cell, right? So that's new, right? That's new. All right, don't worry about like types. I put that in parentheses, but just calcium ion channel, that's good enough. All right, so that's a new thing. This seems like something, right? Voltage gated sodium and sodium ion channels and potassium ion channels. I mean, we've seen them before, right, for creating action potentials in neurons. But I don't know, they put that in there for some reason. And then we see another calcium pump, ATPase pump, in that cell membrane, right? To, just like this one, get rid of calcium, but we're getting rid of it all the way to the outside, right? All the way to the outside. So here we see in cardiac muscle tissue, it's not only important to have our calcium stores in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, but it's also important having calcium outside the cell, right? Because we will use that. We will use that to, somewhere in here, we'll use that to allow a little bit of calcium in first before we do all of this stuff. So we allow a little bit in. That's a trigger amount of calcium that will then trigger this calcium ion channel to open up, and then we get a lot of calcium. So we have, it's kind of like having this little extra step, right, in there for cardiac muscle tissue. A little bit of an extra step. All right, let's see. Oh, oops. We're almost there. All right. This extra step here, and I wrote it kind of down here. This extra step here creates a situation in cardiac muscle tissue that actually prevents cardiac muscle from being able to achieve tetanus, especially fused tetanus. Can you imagine? That would be bad. What was fused tetanus? Right? Keep holding, keep holding, keep holding, right? The contraction. For as long as you want, or as long as you can. That wouldn't be so good, right? In the heart. We want the heart to be cycling, always, right? Contract, relax, contract, relax. If we contract always, oops. Incompatible with blood, right? We're not going to fill with blood. All right, so we don't want that to happen. We'll talk about that next week. Bad situation. So this situation here is going to help us to prevent that from happening. This extra little. So I hate. It's not really extra. I mean, in the heart, it's important. It's integral. But compared to skeletal, right? It's a little. It seems like an extra step. All right, but this is super important in cardiac muscle to help us to prevent. Right? By just a little bit in, and then we tell the heart muscle to go. All right. So anyway, we're going to put this in the cardiac muscle box. Good. And we're definitely going to keep this even after we take the exam on Tuesday. And we're going to talk, obviously, quite a bit more when we talk about the heart on Tuesday. All right. So it's like our intro to the heart. Oops. And then finally, this table. This is one of those tables. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, forget it. But this is comparing side by side. the 3 muscle tissue types, and all sorts of little details, right? Like I said, if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, go back to the pictures. All right, so let us quickly, good, super good timing. Let us do a little lab. I wrote on the board the page numbers for the older version of the lab book, 101 to 102. We're going to do a little bit of reflex stuff, and that's going to go along with, well, let me show you this. Let me show you this. I'm not going to